Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. Tonight is going to be a very interesting topic. I'm very excited for this. We're going to have a story time tonight, and we all are going to learn at the same time what this brother has to say. But before I do that, I am going to play this intro.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and booty walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together with Ursula B. Tonight is going to be very intriguing. I cannot wait to get into the meat of it. But before we do, I want you to make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share this video so we can get these algorithms up. You know, we're all about healing, but we can't heal if y'all can't hear me. Also, when you're listening on the audio podcast, make sure to give your girl a review. It would be so grateful for you to do that. And make sure you also subscribe to the private Facebook group so that we can take this conversation beyond the podcast. And I also would love to get to know my listeners on a little more intimate level. All right, so right now I'm going to bring my guest out, Frank, and there we go. How are you, Frankie?
Good. How are you? So
I am well. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Were you surprised when I reached out to you?
I absolutely was. My co-host Ashley from our podcast, she usually gets all the invites. She's the pretty one of the group. So the two ugly guys is just left on the side with her co-stars. So we often joke with her about that, and she's always the one that's always getting invited to do other podcasts. She's done a podcast with Jamal Bryant. Jesus.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. She about to Bobby Brown us in a minute. She gonna go solo. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, before we get into everything, I am going to show a picture on the screen. This is a little icebreaker.
Okay.
And then I want you to read what you see on the screen and then follow the instructions on it.
Okay.
All right, here we go. First one. One must go.
Oh,
if you can read what you see.
Oh man, so I got two of them that can go on it. One, I don't eat pork, so bacon definitely could go. And sushi, I don't eat sushi as well. So nachos and fries are staying. Those. So, but if I'm following the rules, I probably could. I can deal with bacon obviously more than I can do sushi. So sushi got to go.
I'm with you on that one. Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. Next one. If you can read everyone.
Yes.
And then tell me what must go.
So one must go: donuts, ice cream, popcorn, and potato chips. Ooh.
Uh-huh.
So ice cream is definitely staying. That's my Achilles heel. That's why I'm the weight that I am. I have an infinite love for popcorn. My very first job was at a movie theater, and the smell is embedded in my nose, so that's staying too.
That's a good one.
And as much as I love sour cream and onion chips, you know what? No. Donuts could go. I think I could do without. I think because I have ice cream, I think I can do without donuts. I'm not like the biggest donut lover, even though I love Sublime. But
Oh my God. Sublime
yeah,
is
yes.
so good.
For anybody that's not in Atlanta here, Sublime is definitely it when it comes to donuts, and they're 24 hours.
Listen,
Mm,
Sublime, if
yes.
you're listening to this podcast, I will be your spokesperson.
Yes.
Well, I'll give a free plug right now.
Yeah.
Sublime is everything. And you know where I work at.
Specifically on 10th Avenue, though, the 10th Street, excuse me, across from Georgia Tech. I don't know about
Really?
the one on Briarcliff too much. That's it's decent, but the original one that's on 10th Street, that is A1.
Better than Briarcliff? I'm going to have to check it out.
Briarcliff is just a better location. It's closer and it's
The
but
parking.
they seem to be out of a lot of stuff all the time. I don't like that.
So is it the same owner?
I You know what? I do not believe so. They carry themselves completely different. They didn't. This is a real fat boy moment right here. They didn't recognize the donut day. I went to the one on Briarcliff to try to get a free donut for donut day, obviously.
Yeah.
And I end up having to get in the Krispy Kreme line, and Krispy Kreme was a madhouse because they were giving they honored it, but the one on Briarcliff didn't honor it, and the one on by Georgia Tech did, and I just didn't feel like driving over there, so I just stuck with Krispy Kreme or Wesley Chapel, and you know how that goes.
Oh, hell no.
Exactly.
I say it. Hell no. No, thank
Listen, I
you.
support Black people as much as I can, but just from a realistic standpoint,
Keep it real for a
I,
safety scene.
I
Look,
keep it real on all Black businesses that I partake in. I'm just being honest.
I do too, which is why I like going to the one on Briarcliff because that's a Black owned, but
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think they both are Black owned, but I don't know if they're owned by the same person. I don't think they are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning. I'm learning.
Hmm.
Okay, last one. Here we go. One
Yes.
must go.
Ooh.
And all of his work. Can you
Oh,
read the names?
oh my gosh. So a little tidbit about me. Again, my very first job was at a movie theater. I am a movie aficionado. I'm a movie buff.
Are
I take it
you?
very seriously. One has to go in all of his works. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson, Eddie Murphy, Will Smith, and Lawrence Fishburne. Okay. So what's not happening is Denzel and Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
They're on the same level to me. I am not doing that. So they're exempt. Everyone on here though has that one piece of work. If you say all of his work has to go.
Right.
Um, Even if you can do without some of their movies, there's other things. Eddie's another one that he's staying. He's staying.
Mm-hmm.
Now that leaves Morgan Freeman, Will Smith, and Lawrence Fishburne. So I got oh my goodness.
I know.
What can't I do without with any of them?
I'm just
I
saying.
can't do without Fresh Prince and Bel Air. So Will Smith is staying.
Okay.
Um, and I Am Legend was a great movie too.
Okay.
So that he's staying. So now Morgan Freeman and Lawrence Fishburne. So,
Mm-hmm.
if I take Morgan Freeman out, that's Glory, that's Shawshank Redemption, that's
You really are a movie person. Wow.
man, I can't do it, man. Then if I take Lawrence Fishburne out, that's What's Love Got to Do with It? That's everything. Earl, Cornbread Earl and me. That's
Okay. So pick one.
okay. So
Gotta pick one.
I'm going to go with Lawrence. Lawrence got to go. Oh, I hate to do it.
Ah!
Yeah, Lawrence has to go. Sorry.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. I've always loved doing that with my guests.
that's
Okay.
what's up.
Just getting to know people a little bit better. All right, let's get right into it. So, as everyone knows, tonight's topic is it's a story time, not an interview, but I loved the topic. So I'm going to share with everyone how I came with this. So, Frankie and I are Facebook friends. We have a
Yes.
community of gym people, mutual gym people that we know. And he posted, I knew he was a podcaster, but I didn't know how it was going to that level that you are at now, which I was thoroughly impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And he posted a link about interviewing his father in a raw, uncut interview conversation. I clicked on it immediately and I was freaking blown away.
Oh, thank you.
So let me tell you why I was blown away. One, because first of all, the audio was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But to see two black men being transparent, no ego, and being honest and answering as best that you all could, I was immediately just blown away. And I was not going to have this topic today, but I say, I don't care. I'm rearranging. If he says yes, I'm going to leave whatever date he has available and let's do it. And you said yes. And thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invite, for real.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, if you could just share with the listeners. Oh, and first, anybody, if you have any questions, respectfully, if you'd like to ask Frankie, you can drop them in the chat. If this is a replay, make sure and type replay. All right. Share how you grew up and where you grew up. If you have siblings, how was the family dynamic?
So I do have siblings. My dad had two daughters from two different marriages.
Okay.
But I am my mom's only child.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's only boy from either any one of the marriages. I'm from my dad's first marriage when he was in his 20s.
Oh, so you're the
So
oldest.
I am the oldest of them. Yes, I am the oldest of them. I grew up, however, I grew up a single. Excuse me, I grew up an only child.
Okay.
So I do have two beautiful sisters, Hannah and Nevaeh. Hannah lives down here in Jonesboro, South Side, and then my youngest sister Nevaeh, who started her first year in college, she lives up in Boston.
Oh, so she's young.
She's young, yeah, she's young. She's young. So I actually I met my middle sister Hannah. I met her when she was about 7. Um, but and then my little sister Nevaeh, she's a handful, but she's a beautiful chocolatey girl. Both of them are,
Yeah.
and I love them both to death. But yeah. So my dad's only boy, um, and I wish I could tell you a lot about him. However, I didn't get to know my dad until about 4 years ago. I knew my dad my entire life.
Really?
I knew my dad my entire life, but I did not get to know him until about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I would say.
So did he I hear what you're saying, but did
Hmm.
he was he in the house with you? Did you all grow up with the mother,
No,
father?
you're right. So, okay, so backtrack. So, I was actually born here in Crawford Long Hospital
Get out of
in
here.
Atlanta, Georgia. Right. I was actually born here. A lot of my dad's side of the family was here. However, if you can remember, just take you guys back down memory lane. And for those that don't know, it's a history lesson. What was his name? Wayne. Uh,
Oh,
the guy that was abducting the
yeah.
boys. Yeah. Okay.
Wayne Williams.
Wayne Williams. There you go. Wayne Williams. Very heavy in the area that I grew up in Decatur. But I didn't grow up. Excuse me. When I was an infant. Um, when my mom and dad split because of my father's drug addiction. Um, my mom was here for a little while by herself, and you know, the boys were getting snatched up left and right, and my grandmother back up in New York, Hollis, Queens, where I was raised, said, "Hell,
Run DMC.
yes, absolutely, Run DMC." She said, "Hell no." She said, "No, you're coming up here, you don't, you're not in the house with a man to protect you, and so on and so forth. And all of we just hearing about these boys, young men in abundance being missing on a day-to-day basis, and we need you to come back to New York. And my mom did so when I was about 3.5, 4 years old, and hence why I was raised in New York. So I grew up a large portion of my childhood um, with all the broken promises. It's a broken record. It is a broken record in our community. When I tell you, with the promises of, I'm gonna take you to the great adventures, I'm gonna take you to the mall, I'm gonna take you to this,
Mm.
and then you stuck on a porch waiting with your backpack and a
Ooh.
no show, you know.
How did that
Uh,
make you feel as a kid?
oh
I can remember.
man, listen. And then I'm gonna tell you, it made me feel. I'm gonna be honest with you. I
Yeah.
still didn't have resentment for him until I was like older. Like, he can give me the most BS excuse and I'd accept it. Like, he gives, like, my car broke down, right?
Right.
And I'd be like, oh, it happens. See, mom, look, his car broke down. Meanwhile, my mom knows the real. My mom was like, no, he's probably out getting high. You understand what I'm saying? But my mom was always a G. My mom never bashed my dad, never once badmouthed him and say, listen, Frank, your father is not capable of caring for you right now because he has other obligations, which is narcotics. Obviously, as a child, I'm not going to understand any of that. So she just said, well, maybe he'll come next time. Maybe, so she never once badmouthed him. That's the one thing I can always credit my mom for. I
Mm.
look at a lot of these new age parents and they're like, they don't hesitate to tell the child, your father ain't ish and this and the blah, blah, blah. And that does absolutely nothing for the child's esteem.
Right.
So the only thing that it's a double-edged sword, because the only thing that it did was it made me harbor feelings like, because it's the only, even though I'm a child, it's only but so many times you're gonna tell me the car broke down story, right?
Right.
So now when I'm like 15 and that don't fly, now I'm a young man and I'm cursing at you because
Ooh.
you understand what I'm saying. So
You
that's I
just
don't want to go too far ahead. I know you probably have some more questions
uh-huh.
around that, but that honestly, that is just my story. As unique as you may find it, is not unique at all. Sadly, it's a very common story in our neighborhoods.
Well, I don't want to stop you. Get into, you can get into what you were getting ready to say.
Mm-hmm.
But before you do that, while you're speaking, I never so I grew up in a two-parent household, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make it about me,
Right.
but I get it with the fatherless daughter. Even though
Mm-hmm.
my father was in the home, he was physically present, but emotionally
Mm.
not there. And I didn't know that that was even a thing, or even me being a
Right.
fatherless daughter until 2 years ago,
Yeah.
3 years ago. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
a whole adult.
Yeah.
But hearing you talk
Mm-hmm.
really is giving some insight, because I did grow up with both of my parents in the
Mm-hmm.
home. But you just gave some insight when you said, as a child, you can only take but so much. But then when you were 15,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
thinking about the people I knew who grew up without their dads. I'm like, damn, that's probably what they were thinking. But you
Yeah.
don't know that until you've done some work on yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
insightful.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and I target the age around 15 to 16 because that's when it's kind of wild. That's honestly when I can kind of date myself as a somewhat of a free thinker. Um, the high school that I went to, I had to go through the city. That's what we call this. We call Manhattan. People from out of town might call it Manhattan, but I had to go through this. Even though my school was still in Queens, I had to travel towards the city, and started to see a little bit more. We used to see those hotep preachers on the corner on their soapboxes, and they preach certain things. That's around the time I stopped eating pork. I stopped eating pork in high school. I started getting to other teachings outside of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my understanding, that was Judaism and Islamic beliefs, and a lot of those different beliefs that preached what a father is supposed to be is everything that my dad was not.
Wow.
And from there is when I started to realize I've been cheated and robbed
Mm.
of certain experiences. And it made me, it definitely made me feel a way. I it's one of those things where you can't even put into words. Abandonment. You see, kind of, it's easy to say that you don't know what you won't really know what you're missing if you never had it.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah. If you never had, so he's if he's never been around, how could you miss him, right? But there comes the envy when I do run into every now and again someone like yourself who lives in a dual parent household. I honestly would have traded him to be there at least physically. You said
Wow.
your dad was absent emotionally, but I would have taken the physical.
This is
You know,
so amazing.
I
Let
would
me
have.
tell you, and you know what? I feel the same, totally opposite from you. I would have rather he wasn't in the home.
And I can see that too. Honestly,
Wow.
yeah, that's actually a situation where neither one, I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's obviously
Right.
it's a perception, and it's basically your feelings. Honestly, I can definitely see that too. Because as you were saying it, I was like, man, that's got to be tough too to have somebody in the flesh, in the body, like right there in front of you, but elsewhere, mind elsewhere, and not ever thinking about you, or that has to be
Right.
tough too. But uh, if I'm being honest with you, looking back at it, even as a 41-year-old man, I would much rather, I would want to have my dad there,
Right.
and I just if you go to the park and you get to see someone playing with their dad, you know and you're like, it is so rare. It's like an endangered species almost, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
I had ton of friends and tons of um, cousins, so I wasn't lonely at all, um, which is a good thing. I'm from a big family. My grandmother had 18 siblings,
Wow.
and I think about 16 of them had children. So I had
Wow.
a huge family, and my generation, my cousins, we're all still very much in each other's lives. We have a great connection. I don't know if you saw when I turned 40 in Vegas last year. Everybody came to Vegas with me. We had to make about like 20 people in the house. Like it,
Wow.
we travel together. We do a lot of things together. Yeah. So I mean, we're each other's godparents and stuff like that. So I had a big family. So that wasn't a problem at all. But it didn't matter how many cousins I went to the park with. I would instantly look at a dad pushing his kid in the swing, and like what I wouldn't give to have that moment.
So
So
did you ever have any growing up, not now, any animosity with your mom growing up? Like how was that growing up with your mom?
I got I can recall the day I got spicy with my mom one time.
Oh.
I got spicy with my mom one time. She one time she did say she didn't, again, my mom didn't bad mouth my dad, but I think one time I was expecting him to come, and she had said something to the fact that like don't hold your breath or something like that. She said,
Uh-huh.
this is when I'm old enough to know the difference. She was like, all right, it's time to get out of the Santa Claus phase, right? every parent has that. There's a Santa Claus, and then there's a time when you're old enough to realize I'm the one paying for this shit. Stop, so,
Right.
like, and that's basically how she was. Cause she was like, all right, you're 14 now, or 15, whatever my age was at the time, and she was just like, don't hold your breath. And I was like, why you gotta be like that? Like, why you gotta be so negative and this and that, blah, blah. I forgot what I said to her. I'm making it sound like a white boy rebuttal right now, but it definitely wasn't that. But it wasn't no cursing because I would have got the shit slapped out of me. But
Right.
it was something else. It was like, why you gotta be like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, he gonna come. If he said he gonna come, he gonna come. And then I think that disappointment was another one of the things that kind of probed me. That's when I said, you know what? Maybe he ain't. You know what I'm saying? Ish. And then, that's around the age I rebelled. And I think that was one of the first heart to heart conversations I had with him where I just unleashed the dragon. Shout
You
out to Cisco.
did.
Shout out to Cisco. Yeah, I unleashed it. I died. It's like, you know what, mother, all of that. This, yeah, I had to.
Was it in person, on the phone? What?
It was on the phone. It was on the phone. It was the last of many disappointments that I was
Yeah.
like, I had the straw had broken the camel's back at that point. I said, no, 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 no. Okay. So I've been kind of holding it down and still holding you to your fatherhood this entire time, and you
Ooh,
have not fulfilled your obligations whatsoever.
that's deep.
So I had
Holding you to your fatherhood.
my
Wow.
my dad was strung out. Uh, tell you a quick story. To the reason why I've always had my faith in that he will finally come through for me. Was one of my everlasting memories. My dad came to visit me up in New York. He was high, but I didn't know this because I was too young. I might have been like 5. And we walked to this corner store, what we call a bodega. That's a corner
Bodega.
store up in New York. And he walked me to the corner store just to buy me something. Chips. It probably was a chip and a quart of water or something like that. And he put me on his shoulders. We put your son on the shoulders and kind of just have him walking through. And my dad is 6 foot. I'm 5'5", but my dad is 6 foot. My dad is probably like no. My dad's probably like 5'10", 5'11", but my mom is 5'1", 5'2", something like that
Okay.
best. So that I'm right in the middle of both of them.
Right.
I didn't inherit my dad's height. But he put me on his shoulders and he walked me down the street. And for the first time, I looked at all my other friends that were used to not seeing their dads on the block. And I'm like looking at them like, yeah, you see it. Like I'm all, you know what I'm saying? And
Really?
I've always remembered that I had to be about like 5 or 6 maybe. And from that point on, I always felt like my dad would always come through. But those are when the
Oh.
disappointments started happening. I believe that was the height of his addiction.
So, two questions. One, what was his drug of choice? And two, when did you realize that he was, well, maybe three questions, on drugs and then maybe,
Hmm.
or addicted?
So again, shout out to my mom. I never knew he was on drugs. I never knew
Mm,
my dad had a drug addiction um, until until maybe I when I had that deep conversation with him when I cussed him out.
really?
Yeah, I was unaware. Just thought it was an insubordinate, absent dad. I didn't know it was because of uh, a substance abuse, and
Mm,
his addiction was to pretty much the crack epidemic of
mm-hmm,
the 80s, late 70s, late 70s, early 80s,
mm-hmm,
very heavy in Queens. And even though he didn't live in Queens, he just heroin and crack cocaine was just that was just
mm-hmm.
it.
Right.
Took a lot of families out. And yeah, you know, my dad started with the heavy stuff, cocaine, and then, you know, once that gets stepped on, forget about it. Cocaine, I think, is a little more manageable. They say it gives you a high to upper, and you can still function on it and stuff like that. But that crack is gone. You know that
Right.
that is a 5 minute high that you would do anything to in this world to get that experience again. So you just go back to it. And
Right.
again, I've had other family members that was addicted to crack cocaine, so I was familiar with it. Once I found out that he was on it, it was just like, oh well, it's
Mm-hmm.
over for that. Any hope still of me getting that kind of relationship is gone. But
Mm-hmm.
that's to my fault because I didn't have faith that God would finally put that together. And God, as He always does, proved me wrong
Yes.
and reeled me right back in. And that's what I was saying, alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, that I never been without communication with my dad. However,
Really?
you know, I mean, besides the disappointments of the meetups, I've always spoken to him on the phone, and I've always, you know, been in communication with him. I never went years without hearing from him and stuff like that. I never had that
Mm.
kind of experience. So I've known my dad my whole life, but I didn't get to know my dad until maybe about 5 years ago.
So let's talk about that. So was it a certain event that happened, a life event, or y'all just had a different kind of conversation?
Um, yeah, my dad cleaned up. Um, my dad's doing awesome. I
Mm.
had a conversation with him where I realized he genuinely wanted to right every wrong that he's ever done in his life.
Wow,
He's had an addiction, uh, and he's been clean from his addiction really about 10 years now.
that's
You
impressive.
know, 10 maybe 12 years, I believe he said, which was something new that I've learned from him when my interview with him. I actually I don't know why I thought my dad's been clean for like 25 years or something like that. He came out and said he's been clean for about 12 years, which means, you know, that's only my late 20s, you know.
Mm.
I'm well into adulthood, and that means his other marriages suffered from it as well. But my dad's turnaround, gorgeous, man. My dad's turnaround was his current wife, Eva. Uh
Really?
he who he met in a recovery program,
Mm.
and who so
Now, did was she an employee, or was she also
she was a
addic-
recovering addict as
recovering?
well.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe alcoholism was hers, if I'm not mistaken. But probably not probably, definitely the best thing that's happened to him. He would tell you my mom was the best thing that happened to him, but just because of the empathy that was there, they were able to. They had a different understanding
They
of
did.
what rock bottom looked like. You
They
know,
really did.
my mom, even though my mom might have been the best thing that happened to him, but there was a path that was written for him, and he chose the hard way. But
Mm.
the recovery to get up out of it, I think the recovery is always a better story. You know,
Mm.
and honestly, you know, his wife is just, you know, amazing. Stuck by his side, they stuck by each other's side,
That's beautiful.
and now they, you know, I hate to sound like a fairy tale, but it really is. They live happily ever after up in Boston. They just hold each other down, and it's just amazing to see. He's a completely, I can't say he's a different man because I didn't know how much of a man he was before. However, I will say, you know, I communicate with him very well. We talk to each other a lot, and he's now a grandfather. He has two grandchildren. You know, because my sister Hannah has a daughter, and I have one child as well, my boy. So,
Hmm.
you know,
She's a cutie pie. I've seen her on
yeah, thank
your
you.
Facebook page.
Yes.
Your pretty wife.
She's
Yeah.
big, little chocolatey. Yeah. So in all honesty, I just I'm happy he had his healing process, and I was so fortunate to be able to sit down and talk with. He's into reform. He
Ooh.
speaks a lot to former addicts and that
Ooh.
still have their moments where they want to relapse and stuff like that. I had a Facebook friend similar to your situation. He didn't invite me on a podcast. He doesn't have a podcast, but White Kid actually he inboxed me, and he was addicted to methamphetamines,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me that he listened to my dad and
Oh, that
and he
is.
was like, and I told him, I said, it's crazy, man. My podcast, Truth No Chaser, we have a slogan. Our slogan is the podcast for Black people, by Black people, about everything Black. However, love does not discriminate. So
Mm,
I even though the gentleman was white that contacted me, I was like, if we all have a similar story to share, it's really for every listener's eyes. My priority is the Black community. Yes, I'm going to stand on that.
right.
Whoever whoever receives this message
I
is.
agree with you.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, as you can see with even the title of my podcast, Black Girls, Black Women, but whoever receives that message,
mm-hmm.
who am I to deny that, or whoever my guest is, because they come with some great topics like
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So
Yeah,
healing has no color. That I
it
will
does
agree
not.
with you.
Absolutely.
So speaking of truth, no chaser,
Mm-hmm.
what was the catalyst of you asking your father? How were you feeling when you were thinking about asking him? Like, how was that whole situation?
So that was interesting. I am the program director of my our podcast, so a lot of the content comes through me, and
Nice.
but even though it is definitely a collaborative effort. Most of the content comes through me, and one of the ideas that I had, uh, we've done a few documentary esque uh, shootings where we did Darken in Blue. There was a connection between our Black men and the police. We did that
Oh.
right after, was it George Floyd? No, it was before George Floyd. It might have been around. I forget which, and that's sad.
Isn't it? Because there's so
Sad to say because
many.
I kind of forget what incident it was surrounded around. But we shot that in a barbershop, so we said let's do another one, and we wanted to tackle addiction, whatever that might be. Where we shot a show, which is what you hear, is now coming out in segments. It took us a while to edit it, but we getting it together. Can't wait for you guys to see the visuals of it. But right now,
Mm,
the audio is available because my co-host Ashley, who I mentioned earlier, her mom and dad both had addiction problems, to
mm.
drugs, substance abuse as well. So that's a story that we share, and we said, well, let's see if we can get a few more people to talk about this. We got a gentleman who's my daughter's swim instructor named Ken out in Stockbridge. He is an alcoholic. He's been sober for about 15 years. Uh,
Mm.
and I have another gentleman by the name of Carl out in Washington, the state Washington. He was addicted to gambling. Hmm.
Interesting.
So we
See
filmed
what you're
all
doing.
we filmed all four different settings. Um, so it's still in production, but I can't wait for you guys to see it. But again, like you guys are hearing snippets of it now, and that's what you were able to catch. So that's how that came into
Mm.
fruition.
Okay.
Hmm.
So how did you ask your father?
Man, I told my dad, I said, Dad, you love speaking to people about you know, how this is how drugs have affected your life, but how you, through the grace of God, you could overcome it. I want you to put that on a grand stage. I want you to talk about it on camera. And like he was on like the next thing smoking. My dad doesn't fly, so he took the train. So literally the next thing smoking, like the train, the Amtrak. So he came down here and we actually shot it in my school, the school that I work in, Miller Grove Middle School.
You know, let me tell you something. That was one of my questions I
Mm-hmm.
was going to ask. Was it in person,
Mm-hmm.
virtual? Like, what was the deal? So that adds on a whole
Mm-hmm.
nother layer
Yeah.
of it being in person. Because
Mm-hmm.
now, yeah, we're talking, but there's nothing like someone who's
Sitting
tangible.
across from you, man, oh
You
man.
can feel that energy right across, you know. Woo. So,
I've been talking to my dad for 30 plus years. I don't know how nervous. I can't tell you how nervous I was. Sitting
were
there,
you?
sitting there asking those questions because but he was very transparent. We did like a face to music type of theme, so we shot it in the music room. So that was pretty cool. That was everything was very strategic, and he delivered tenfold. Like it almost wasn't even an interview. It was just like a confessional almost. You know, I maybe
Powerful.
might have asked him maybe about 4 questions, but my dad just took the floor and just let it rip.
I
And
love his voice,
yeah,
the way he talks.
yeah.
I was captivated.
Hmm.
So, when you started talking to him,
Hmm.
did you come up? How did you present yourself? How did it feel? Were you presenting when you were asking your questions? Did you feel like the 5-year-old or 15-year-old Frankie,
I'm
or
a
talking
junior.
as a 41
Yeah,
year old?
yeah. I'm a junior, so I
Uh-huh.
can't escape the name. I can't detach myself even if I tried.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always embraced that part of our relationship. But like I said, the nervousness, yes, I was like putty. It was like a 5-year old asking because as a then when I did that interview, I was 39,
Yeah.
maybe about 39. I was like a 5-year old.
Yeah.
I did, you know, I was like talking to my dad for the first time.
Mm.
Yeah. It was quite an experience. I encourage whomever that it had a similar situation that might have animosity and pent up frustrations. Just know it's not the parent. I for years I've looked at it as they chose the drug over me, but I can say now looking back at it that the drug caught a lot of people, and he was just one of them. You know,
Mm.
I honestly, I've never experienced it, but I know enough about that drug that you know to know just how hard it is for a person to get up out of it. So, you know, I had to come to grips with that, but I currently don't blame him at all for any of those iniquities. I just, you know, I just look at it as, well, at least you were there for one of us, which is my sister Hannah, Nevaeh, who is the one I mentioned that's going off to college. She's, you know, so he was there. He set her up with a nice lifestyle. She was able to have 2 parents in the house, and she's, you know, she was able to reap the benefits, you know. And so
Right.
kudos to my mom. She did a great job for raising me without, you know, man in her life. But you know, at least he has 3 kids. At least one of them got a chance to see it all the way through. So
Right.
you know,
Well, what were some of the questions? Do you remember some of the questions you asked him? Or let me back that up.
hmm
I do want to know what some of the questions that you asked him, but were there any questions that you were surprised by the answer?
that the one that I told you, how long he's been sober. You know,
Mm.
when I realized it really wasn't all that long. I was like in complete shock. I was like, whoa. So that was probably the major question that but the best question that I asked was, what was the turnaround? What
Mm-hmm.
got him to lead to the road of sobriety? Uh, and he said he remembered the exact day. It was up north in Boston, where he was at the time, and he just came in contact with where he was buying drugs from was right across from a church. And
Mm.
it was like a fork. It was like I don't know if you're familiar with the Saul, the story of Saul in the Bible, but when Saul turns to Paul, the road to Damascus, when he basically just does a light shine on him. Is that the correct way? Shine or shone, shine, whatever. But the
Right.
light just came upon him, and just like God just like a veered left, and
Um,
he's been that way ever since.
really?
Some may even call him a Christian extremist, which I'd rather him be that than, you understand what I'm saying, what he was in the former life. So that's his testimony, and
Mm-hmm.
listen, I'm proud of it because my daughter gets to see her grandfather.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Truly her grandfather, her real grandfather.
absolutely, absolutely. Her real right. The person that I finally got a chance to meet, she gets to see in his abundance.
Isn't it funny how you both are meeting him at the same time?
That's beautiful.
And then the age difference
And
between you and your daughter.
she don't even know it. And if she gets older enough to understand the story, if I didn't tell her, she wouldn't know it.
Right.
So
So let's back up a little. When you were blown away by him being sober, clean for 10 years, but you thought it was longer, correct?
yeah.
So did you have any in that gap, that other 10-year gap, have any animosity thinking, well, he's clean, why isn't he coming around? But in reality, he was still
Once I got to a certain age, I was like out of sight, out of mind. So I guess that is animosity because
mm,
it was like a could care less kind of situation.
mm,
If he comes, he comes. I ain't letting it hurt my heart anymore. I'm not gonna be that little boy on the stoop waiting for him to come and he's a no show.
right.
It was just like, oh well, So I just, but if I'm backtracking just a small bit, I was my dad's side of the family. I was still close with them too. I came down. I visited Atlanta every summer.
Did you really?
I did. From when I was like, I want to say nine,
Wow.
nine all the way up to about like 17. I visited Atlanta every summer break. So I was still I still am really close with my father's side of the family. It was just my dad that was absent. But
So
my uncles, his brothers, his saying his sisters, I'm close with all of them.
so how did he get along with his siblings?
With his siblings,
Yes.
now it's kind of it's a weird
Well, back
it's a
then, I
weird
should say.
vibe.
Back
It's a
then.
back then I couldn't tell you because he was absent. He was absent from their lives as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that
Yeah,
ever came up in
yeah. He was absent
conversation.
from their lives as well. So I couldn't tell you how he really got along. But the trait of anger runs deep through my dad's side of the family. So it's so crazy because now when I see how they communicate, my dad is like I said, he's extremist. He's extremist, tough pill to swallow, and but he's very militant. He's very to the books and stuff like that, and he just they go at it. But the three of them still remaining. His brother Tyrone, his brother Jimmy, his brother Bobby passed away. That's all my uncles.
Oh,
So
wow.
they all passed away. But so he's the only boy left. He was the youngest boy to begin with, but he's the only boy left. And
Hmm.
yeah. Just watching them communicate is just funny to me. So crazy. I'm definitely gonna call him after I get off this with you.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
some
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah. Definitely call him just to let him know what I did and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah, send them
yeah,
this video as well. This is good.
absolutely.
So, were there any questions that you, after you finished and you thought about it, like, damn, I should have asked him X?
Yeah, man. Like I said, he kind of took the show over a little bit, but there was definitely one question, and it escapes me now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I can't think of it. He just, like I said, the one how long he was sober was the one that kind of got me, and it almost took me off my square a little bit. I was like so in shock, you know. So
Why? You never said though. Like, why did it shock you?
you know, I just for lack of better words, I felt like he had his stuff together way longer than that.
Okay, that
I
makes
did.
sense.
I did. I thought, so it instantly made me think about my sister Hannah, because then I
Mm,
realized that he was using during that marriage as well.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's, now with history repeating itself, I every so often have to talk my sister Hannah off the ledge, because she is where I was at her age, as far as animosity. I'm she and but the thing is, the difference between her and everybody this generation, they put everything on social media. So like they make a post about it, like, oh, you know, I wish I had a father to do this and this and the blah, blah, blah. So now the family is chiming in, and you know how that goes, friends and stuff like that. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
call her to tell her to delete it, and
Mm.
she's even come at me a couple of times about, what I'm saying, I get absenteeism and stuff like that. So I gotta always kind of, this is an emotional, extremely emotional generation underneath us, that we this Gen Z, they call them.
Right.
Is that what it is? They're Gen Z, right? We're millennials, so yeah. So
Well,
anyway,
I'm not a millennial.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm learning so much about those generations like that I didn't know. Like I thought the same thing. I was like, I would always say, "Oh, these millennials, this and that," not knowing that I was a millennial. I
Right.
yeah. So that's weird in itself. But anyway, yeah.
Uh,
So I just have to, I have to talk her off the ledge, and let her know, like, hey, it's unfortunate, but you got dad while he has gotten himself together, and now he's 70 something. So now
ah,
anything that he even if he wanted to accomplish half the stuff that he didn't experience with you, he physically can't.
wow.
I took my dad to his very first and only professional football game. As you can see, I'm a Cowboy fan.
Listen.
Flew up to Boston. I flew up to Boston, and I took my dad to a Cowboys versus Patriot game in December. It was frigid. It was 5 below,
Hell
raining.
no.
It was raining and sleeting, and he was a trooper. He had his ventilating machine, his oxygen machine. I have a picture with him. I should have sent it to you, but he has the oxygen tank connected. The thing connected to the tank. He
Right.
was traveling with it, and we went out there to the game, and he stuck it out when we all 4 quarters. We lost because we never beat Tom Brady ever, but um he stuck it out with me, because it was like when's the next time he's gonna get a chance to see a game with his son.
That's beautiful.
And
That's
that's it.
beautiful.
But that's also when I realized I ain't gonna be able to do that too often, because we always had to call the doctor to get him out of the freaking stadium. You know what I'm saying? So because
Oh,
he's just too old now. So the most I could do with him is enjoy a nice burger at a restaurant or something like that. I'll take that.
yeah, that's some good stuff. That is. So we're gonna start wrapping it up,
Yes, sir.
but
Hmm.
I wanted to know as we start to end. So we're gonna take it full circle now that you are a dad.
Yeah.
So how has your upbringing been, well, because of your upbringing, has it affected the way you parent your child?
So, and that was a question I was waiting for
Mm.
because no, it plays it plays very little. I was always I dated my wife when we were 18.
Oh,
We've been off
wow.
and on since we were 18, so we are lifelong lovers and partners. Um,
Yes.
we've always been destined to have a child together.
Mm.
Um, our first child, we miscarried, and our first child passed away in 2016. Um,
Really?
yes, my baby boy Hollis. We named him Hollis where I'm
Like
from.
Hollis
Yeah.
Queens. That's so dope.
So my
I
baby boy Hollis, he passed away. He did not make it. So would have been 6 this year. It's crazy. August 22nd. So when my rainbow child, my miracle baby, Linquay was born. Linquay is named after my favorite cousin in the world, my cousin Linquay. Um, you know, I never once said I'm gonna be everything that my dad was, and this is the proverbial, the
Mhm.
Tyler Perry skit. I did not approach it like that. However, my my dad's absenteeism contributed to how good of a husband I am. I
Oh.
honestly, I honestly attribute our success of our marriage to the absence of my dad. I don't know.
Really?
Yes.
In what kind of way? This is
I
interesting.
and that was the curveball I was telling you about. Honestly, um, I don't want to put her in a position to where
Mm.
she got to do that alone. I look at a lot of dads out here deadbeat, and it's like, how can you even fathom leaving someone to do this solo? That is unimaginable. I have two fears, and they're like 1A and 1B. And 1A is my daughter calling another dude daddy, and right behind it is my wife having to do this by herself. So
Wow.
if I can be completely honest, they are I don't have the affiliation with the addictions, so that is the dynamic. That's the reality that I saw, where the addiction took over the relationship. And since I don't have that fight, that's not my
Mm.
story. I now have to move on what's to the next fear, and that's my own fear. So my dad,
Mm.
my dad had plays very little as far as motivation on how I'm, react, or how I maneuver with my daughter, but more so my relationship. I look at my mom, who just recently passed away. Rest in peace, my
Yeah, I saw
mom.
that.
I look at her and how she was, her and so many other amazing Black queens were forced to do it on their own. God bless them. God bless them. But ain't gonna be my wife.
I know. I love that. That is definitely a curveball. I was not I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't
Yeah.
expect that.
Hmm.
Because listening to when I knew you and I were about to have this conversation, I went through several rabbit holes
Hmm.
listening to Black men talk about their absentee dads.
Yeah.
And several of them, it was funny because they would be on either side of the extreme spectrums.
Hmm.
I'm never gonna do this. I'm never, they don't touch drugs, they don't look at alcohol, like none of that.
Mm.
And they're on the
Hmm.
extreme opposite. And then there are some that they become exactly like their fathers. And they couldn't see it
Hmm.
that they were exactly like them because it looked different. It's almost like an apple and an orange. They're different, but they're both fruit.
Yeah.
You
Right.
get it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so one brother, and I'm gonna try to get him on the show. He wrote this book about being a fatherless son, and he was saying how he definitely did not want to do anything that his father has done. He's listening to him was like listening to you.
Yeah.
Like he set his own path. He
Yeah.
knew what he was going to do. But this other brother, this was so amazing. So his father was not addicted to substances. His drug of choice was women.
Oh,
Yeah. And
mhm.
so
See that?
you see,
Mm-hmm.
and so his mom was emotionally absent. His dad was in and out of the home.
Yeah.
Well, now he hated himself because he thought it was something that he has done while his dad wasn't in the home.
Okay.
And because he never had any validation from either parent,
Yeah.
he looked for it in women. And so he was a serial cheater. Infidelity is how he lived his life.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that he loved the hunt and the chase
Mm-hmm.
because he was getting the validation, but it was all external validation.
Yeah.
And then when he realized, like, wait a minute, I've been risking, I love my wife, I'm risking everything, the home, the kids,
Yeah.
all of that. He's like, what's going on? And then he went through his own self-healing. And that's when he realized, like, you know what? I never got any validation, and both of my parents were absent.
I
And
can see. I can see that. I
Mhm.
I I was just determined. Came to this epiphany around the age of, I want to say 30. When I realized I didn't want resentment to be my makeup.
Mm,
And that's where I would, respectfully disagree with those gentlemen that feel like I'm determined to be everything that my dad wasn't. Now your whole makeup is based off of resentment. Your whole makeup is your whole
mm.
being is determined to be a better human than someone else versus being the best you for you.
That's some good stuff right there.
When I got to about the age that I can say it, honestly, everything they call them milestones for a reason. Your mind literally goes into another shift when you turn 20 to 21 to 25 to 30, 40. You start thinking differently, and around 30 is when I said I gotta be the best Frankie Glenn Jr. I can be, more so than trying not to be my dad. I want
Mm,
the concentration needs to be on self, not,
mhm.
So like again, I just didn't want my entire makeup in my purpose in life to be based on, well, what I'm not gonna be is him. You know,
Right.
then where's the focus? Then that means more of a percentage of your focus is on a whole nother person.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there.
Hmm.
So we're gonna end because I want to respect your time. So
Yes,
speaking of
ma'am.
family, so you can enjoy your family time. But are there any parting words you'd want to leave with someone who has been in a relationship with a fatherless son, someone who is a fatherless son? You never know who's listening.
Right, right. Again, just to piggyback off of what I was just saying, just anybody that's in a similar situation, try to be, again, build the best you for your offsprings, for society, so that you can be able to contribute something valuable
Mm,
to your community and be the best person that you can be. Um, and that can't be done without God. You have to have some spirituality. I didn't say church, I said God specifically. So that requires a large amount of prayer because it can't be done by yourself. All right. And just again, block out all the extra and try to focus on you and your responsibilities, which is you as a black man, you as a black king, and your family. And honestly, that is it. That will be my parting words.
That's some dope stuff. Dope. So can you tell everyone where they can reach you?
Yes. So you can reach me at thetruthnochaser.com. That's our website. My name is Frankie Glenn. You can also follow me on Facebook, on Instagram. My Instagram name is Most Shady Frankie Baby again.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had to do another page that got hacked. So Most Shady Frankie Baby is a Notorious B.I.G. lyric. So I stole that a little bit because it just has my name in it every time he mentions my name. So,
I love it. Wait, what is it again? I'm gonna drop it in the chat. Most
Shady Frankie Baby. It's one word. Most Shady Frankie Baby again, because that's my new page. Make sure you put that again. It's all one word.
Okay.
So yeah. So you can follow me on that, and all the other outlets are on our website, thetruthnochaser.com. And you can follow us, which you can purchase merchandise, and follow us for content as well. And I want to thank you so much for this opportunity on Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. I always thought that was a awesome name, by the way.
Thank you.
Very, very nice play on words. And I've listened to a few of your shows, and you are awesome. You are awesome. Yes.
Thank you.
But very, very natural at this. Very natural at this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Trust me, I because we're in the same business, I have to look at not necessarily competition, but look to see if there's someone else that does something better than what I do and stuff like that. And just looking at your background is very calming. You know, your voice is calming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Content is great. Definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Coming from another podcaster. You know, because I've listened to yours as well, and just thoroughly impressed.
We got to tap into our community is all we have, and people take it for granted. I know Facebook always asks what's on your mind, but we really need to know what's on each other's minds so that we can start this healing process together.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. Oh, guess what, Frankie? One more thing. Guess what?
Yeah.
You are a brother that has his shift together.
Awesome. I like that. Yes, ma'am. Awesome.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another dope ass episode of Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. Make sure and follow me on all social networks. It is Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together audio cast. Please make sure, give your girl a review. I know you're listening because I see the analytics.
Yes.
And more importantly, please join the private Facebook group so we can take this conversation beyond the podcast. There's a lot of good things in the pipeline coming down. So y'all just saw Fox Soul, but it's getting bigger. So you got to stay tuned in. So you got to make sure and follow me. Frankie, thank you so much for joining me and just letting me share you with my listeners. This is a prototype right here. I love it.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much again. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been awesome.
Take care. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
For the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Crunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting